So we're going to now welcome Louis Johnson, the Chief Scientist and co-founder of Alelo, and he will present a talk on foreign language learning.
Thank you, Bev. Let me share my screen. So Beverly gave, first of all, a little bit of introduction myself. So I am President CEO of Alelo. I've been working in the area of AI education, initially in academia and now in the private sector, and very much interested in scaling up personalized learning technologies and developing them into products. So Beverly gave an introduction in terms of the overall size of the edtech market, but I'd like to focus in here specifically on the market for AI-driven educational products, which of course is the theme of these workshops, which has become quite substantial. The global market for AI-driven educational products is now at 1.8 billion and growing annually at a 36% rate, which is quite substantial. It sounds big and impressive, except in comparison to edtech as a whole. So if we look at the global edtech market, it is $133 billion. And it is also growing at a 18% rate. And that is a small fraction of the overall market of educational services, which is over $3 trillion. So in this comparison, AI ed is still a small fish in a big ocean. So what I'd like to talk about, focus on is it possible for AI ed to grow even faster, to become a must-have technology? In other words, we shouldn't be satisfied at 36% annual growth. The question is, could we get AI ed products to the point where they're so much better than the alternatives that everybody has to have it? So I take as a comparison smartphones. So for a while, smartphones were growing rapidly, but it got to the point where smartphones were so much more powerful and easy to use compared to older mobile phones that people said, well, I got to have one. And I would be surprised if anyone in this call does not have a smartphone. So could AI ed-based products become must-have? It certainly seems possible. If personalized learning is as powerful as we think it is or could be, it ought to become a must-have technology. The reason why it has not is there still are some barriers that it must overcome, and we'll talk about that. Can a ConExcel initiative help to make it must-have technology? I believe absolutely, and I think that should be our goal here. We should be thinking in terms of how do we get AI personalized learning products past the inflection point to where they become must-have technologies. So I'm going to talk about this in the context of foreign language learning, but I think some of the issues here apply in other subject matter areas as well. So a little bit of background, my own work, I got, initially when I was back at USC, I saw interesting potential of AI and gaming technology to transform language learning. And we got an initial grant from DARPA to develop a game-based solution that would help people quickly learn foreign languages and cultures, the Tactical Language Program. And we got some very encouraging results from this. We found that, for example, an Army battalion who trained learning Pashto and Dari using one of our games, they went into Afghanistan, and in that region, when they arrived, there were multiple insurgent attacks per day By the time they left, it was down to like 1 attack per month. And a lot of that has to do with the enhanced ability of the soldiers to engage with the local population, which was a result of the training that they had received. So we continued to develop that, and now we have a whole suite of cultural training products called VCATs, which are required training for defense personnel deploying to 86 countries around the world. So in this domain, we have established this as a must-have technology. Must-have because it helps people gain self-confidence as well as developing skills that they can apply immediately to the real world. There have been 500,000 trainees to date, and we saw a big increase of usage during COVID-19 when in-person training became impractical, and so people were looking for online alternatives. This is still not sufficient because this is limited to government applications. In fact, this technology was limited to government servers. If you do not have a government account, then you do not get access to this. So we then said, well, a way to address this is to move our data and processing to the cloud so we can make it available to a much larger user population. And so that led to the development of our Alelo N-Skill architecture that enables learners, it runs in the cloud, enables learners to practice skills with AI avatars in a safe environment. It provides formative assessment of the learner's skills, in particular foreign language speaking skills, provides immediate guidance, provides personalized learning in areas where students need to improve, and provides analytics to teachers, learners, administrators about how the learners are doing. So it applies AI techniques in a number of different perspectives. And this, to get there, moving to the cloud was critical because it then made it possible for us to leverage other AI-driven cognitive services. And so what we, our initial products were proprietary technology, but now it's a combination of our own technologies and other AI cognitive services, which continue to develop, that our platform collects and analyzes learner data continually in a safe manner. We develop have a data-driven development approach that uses machine learning to help automate the authoring process. And this is an area where we continue to see a lot of need to help make the authoring process quicker and easier, leveraging machine learning technology. So this is platform that we have running now. We are continuing to develop and enhance to enable it to become must-have technology. I mentioned as part of this data-driven development, so we see a big value in developing systems iteratively informed by learner data. We regard our platform to be a data collection tool as much as a learning tool. We collect data early and often, and we continually, iteratively, repeatedly extract segments of learner data, for example, learner responses. We analyze the system's performance on that. We annotate the data so that we can then use that to retrain the models and improve them. We also evaluate the system continually. So unlike conventional summative assessment where you evaluate when you're done, in this view, really you're never done. You're continually evaluating where things are working, where they need to improve. And this approach is also useful to evaluate, to guard against potential bias. You can select samples of data with different learner characteristics and see if that helps, are there biases toward particular types of learners. And there's a paper in the AI Ed journal that talks about this approach in English language learning, but we apply it actually quite broadly. And one thing that we put effort on, particularly since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, is to provide better analytics and dashboards to teachers who are often working remote, and the students were often working remote, of course, and sort of looking at learner performance across a number of different dimensions to track progress toward proficiency. So, for example, one of the metrics that we look at in spoken language, in task-based spoken communication is, on one hand, we put some learners in the context of a simulation. Can they meet all the objectives of the task? And then what's the number of conversational turns per minute? How rapidly can they engage in back and forth with the avatar? This correlates well with overall language proficiency. We also look at the number of hints that the learner uses, as well as the amount of time that they spend. So we get very good insight in how learners are progressing from analysis of the data that we are collecting, and that now we're looking at how we can make that usefully available to instructors. We do get reports back from the instructors in terms of the results that they are getting. So, for example, UVM, Universidad del Valle de Mexico, at their Toluca campus, they've been using Alelo and Skill English for multiple classes, and their instructors reported back that now the students were coming better prepared to class, so it actually made their classes more productive. They could see that it was helping learners to build self-confidence, and they could see that this approach really appealed to the learners in their classes. This avatar-based approach made a lot of sense to them. So now what we're looking is continuing to look at how can we further improve the results that we're getting. And a key part of that is learning from our teachers. So I am very much motivated by studies. For example, there's a RAND study that showed that the #1 predictor of student success is having a good teacher. And by implication, not having a good personalization algorithm necessarily. But with access to data, we can now start asking questions. Well, what is the contributor to success? How much of it is the curriculum? How much of it is the teacher training? How much of it is what we call program navigation, helping the students support them through the course to make sure they complete? And then ask the question of, well, okay, can the software better help the teachers to help the students? And also, can that help us to then improve the personalization algorithms, as kind of, if you will, as a final step? So we're now giving the teachers ability, for example, to replay the conversation between the student and the avatar. And we expect that will give them further insight beyond the analytics that we've been able to identify so far in terms of how students are struggling. And then from that, we can learn, okay, how are the teachers using our tools? How can we then improve our tools? So back to the question that I raised at the beginning, how do we make this a must-have technology? I see some important areas where work is now needed that could be addressed in the context of a conic cell initiative. So one following what I just said is we need to make N-Skill a must-have tool for teachers, where it is really easy to use and really powerful to help them to orchestrate learning. Again, I think the smartphone is a great analogy of doing it right. And then based upon that, we can then provide more automated personalization and support so that the platform is making more decisions in support of the teachers. And then, of course, incorporate built-in teacher training to promote the best practices that we are learning from other teachers. Another important issue I see is lowering the effort and cost of creating new content. Now, and of course, this has been the problem for AI-driven content from the very beginning, the cost of creating it. But I think this is a key point where we have to work to reduce the cost and effort. But I am optimistic that now using natural language processing and machine learning technologies, it's possible to do more in this area. And, you know, kind of similar to what Robbie was talking about of using natural language processing to analyze curricula. I think that there's an important role for those technologies here. And then we need to facilitate safe access to learner data, anonymized learner data. So this requires opening up the platform so that it's possible then to incorporate other analytics, other personal techniques so that we can really build on the best technologies available. So this sort of then leads to what I think we need to be looking for in terms of the type of projects that could really benefit from a conic cell process. I think ones that have these characteristics, and N-Skill certainly fits in this category, is having near-term access to learner data. What projects are there that are gathering data now that can inform the process or in the very near future? What are the projects that are implementing data-driven improvement that are making best use of that data? And what are projects that are willing to make data available in some form to other projects? This, I think, is an ongoing issue, that the data that's collected remains siloed. Part of that is because data collection and sharing requires effort and financial support, and I think needs to be built into the process from the very beginning. But I think if it is, then there's really potential to achieve rapid acceleration of innovation. So I think that is my last slide. So great. I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Louis. That's really great to talk about Robbie analyzing curriculum with NLP, and then you analyzing questions with NLP, and then using NLP to create more content. I mean, we absolutely have to do that.